must protect sugar. Thieves everywhere. The strong must protect the sweet. The sweet. In America, first you get the sugar, then you get the power, then you get the women.
Well, I didn't tape him. You never know what's happening when you see that the Obama administration, and perhaps longer than that, was doing all of this unmasking and surveillance, and you read all about it, and I've been reading about it for the last couple of months about the seriousness of and horrible situation with surveillance all over the place. And you've been hearing the word unmasking, a word you probably never heard before. So you never know what's out there. But I didn't tape, and I don't have any tape, and I didn't tape.
I can't live the button-down life like you. I want it all. The terrifying lows, the dizzying highs, the creamy middles. Sure, I might offend a few of the blue noses with my cocky stride and musky odors. Oh, I'll never be the darling of the so-called city fathers who cluck their tongues, stroke their beards, and talk about what's to be done with this hobbit.
Hello and welcome to The Surfs. I'm Lance.
And I'm Dave.
And today's episode is brought to you by letter V for Vulva. Because not only are we talking about the war on women, but we don't get a lot of episodes that start with the letter V.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a rare occasion right there. Until the next time we have to drop the word vagina, which, it's coming.
Well, I guess if we do an episode on vaccines, we'll need that V back again. We also have a Cretin of the Week, so stay tuned. We'll reveal who he is. We're not going to give you any funny jokes because this guy's just such a deplorable asshole. And yeah, so
there's going to be funny jokes. Let's call a spade here.
yeah. He should be the Cretin of the century, considering how long he's been at work. But on to the best part of every episode, and the most important part, of course. Dave, what are you drinking this fine evening?
This week I'm drinking a little Powell Brewery. I'm drinking Cumulus Lupulus. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's not lupus, but lupulus.
Yeah, I was like, what is that, a tuba? Is that a tuba?
It's a super tart, hoppy. It's like a very fruity beer. It's like 4%, but it's fucking delicious. Like,
yeah, it sounds delicious. You're not normally really a fan of the fruitier beers.
No, but they have
that's usually my vice.
It says like its flavors are orange, grapefruit, mango, and passion fruit, and it's a beer. And it's tasty.
Its flavors are colors? What is this, purple drink? No, we don't got juice. We got purple drink.
Get my lean on. We did the heroin jive a couple weeks ago, and now we're starting on the purple drink.
I'm the purple drink.
You've been getting your lean on in the Big Apple, eh?
Yeah, that's true.
So what are you drinking?
I think it's because the U.S. has such a high Hispanic and Latino population, despite what Donald Trump is trying to do. But I think because of that, they have so many more imported Mexican beers. There's like when you go into the corner store, there's such a plethora, especially in New York. So I'm trying yet another one. This one is Estrella Jalisco, I guess is how it's pronounced. It's with a J.
Don't you speak Spanish?
I know, I'm not doing my Chilean father a lot of pride right now. Sorry, papi. ¿Por qué?
I have no son.
But yeah, Estrella Jalisco. Of all the ones I've tried on the show, which I guess is 3 now, this is by far the most delicious. It's just, fantastic. I guess the lime was a really good marketing part on Coronas, right? Because if the beer is terrible or if it's in the sun too long, you just throw lime in there and it's like, fresca. But this one requires nothing. Like it is just delicious by itself with a clear bottle.
So it's not Mexican piss water, basically.
It's not Mexican piss water. It's muy bien. And now you can give us that sponsorship dinero, eh, Mexico?
That's 2 beers we just gave like a pretty big thumbs up, So
Yeah, that's true.
come on, bribery. I mean, not bribery money. Come on, corporate money.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it. The news of the week, or as you guys are listening to it, the news of last week. Yay. Up and coming. So should we start with the travel ban that just got semi-approved by the Supreme Court?
Yeah, it makes sense. The Supreme Court had their first little shebang of the year, which they basically settled cases and announced which cases are on the docket and so on and so forth. As far as
can you explain a little bit why they kind of shoot their wad all at once? Like it's just one big...
No. Moving on. So
the Serf's informative commentary.
So the Supreme Court has officially decided that they will hear the case about Trump's travel ban, which, as we know, has been overturned by the Ninth District Court, as well as one of the other courts, and as such has finally gotten the big call up to the big show, to the big leagues. You're playing with the pros now.
Oh yeah, so that means lots of steroids, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure all those guys on the Supreme Court are juicing like crazy. Have you seen Ruth Bader Ginsburg? She is, she's just pumping that HGH all the time, lifting weights. So later this year, I'm not sure the exact date, they will hear the entire case and make a decision on it. But until then, they have made some calls on that, on the travel ban.
Yeah.
Essentially somewhat overturning the stay, but not entirely. So essentially they have decided to enforce the ban, but allow it a lot of wiggle room and loopholes. So the ban is sort of semi in effect. So as we know, that ban bans people from those 7 Muslim countries. The ban, when it was firstly announced, was fairly open and just smacked everybody's bitch ass down. Now it won't. So the Supreme Court basically gave it some latitude in the sense that anybody who has a bona fide relationship within the United States is given a pass. Now, it is my understanding that that relationship can qualify as if you're somebody visiting relatives in the United States, if you have a job offer in the United States, if you have any business dealings with a university or a school, or people who have been invited to address or perform in some sort of entity, whether that be an academic conference or a business conference or what have you.
What about sex mimes?
What about what?
What about sex mimes?
Well, I think sex mimes generally have a carte blanche to travel the world anywhere they want to go. If you're a sex
they will
mime,
demonstrate that carte by miming it for you.
It's some lewd sexual behavior in front of the customs officer. Those loopholes basically do give a lot of leeway for people coming in. So it's not as vicious as it was before, where it was just turning back people who actually lived here or were going to school. Now, I could be wrong, but I read that refugees themselves are covered under some other specific category. So it may not even block them. So
Well, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So, okay, so, first off, the Lord Cheetah of, the orange tunic diaper was, quick to say on Twitter, very grateful for the 9-0 decision from the U.S. Supreme Court. We must keep America safe, which, irked me a bit because I didn't know this was going to be just a straight up 9-0 decision. I was thinking maybe this would be the first time that we kind of start to see the new sway of the Supreme Court once, Neil's in there now. But this wasn't actually it wasn't a signed decision, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was either way, so Trump was wrong about that because it wasn't an actual 9-0 decision. It was just an unsigned
they didn't actually hear the case, right? They just basically decided to hear it in the future and gave some judgment on its current state right now.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously Trump is going to misconstrue the facts and use it to pump his own Cheeto orange dick balls.
Yeah.
Like, no surprise there. But as far as them actually hearing it, no. I mean, you get a good sense of how the court may or may not go. I mean, who knows? It's gonna be a fucking tight one, I believe.
Yeah.
As far as the Supreme Court goes, that wasn't the only thing they heard today. They heard a few other cases and settled on some. One of which was the right, I believe. I believe it was Illinois. I could get that wrong, but it was a case about same-sex, I believe lesbian couples adopting children had an issue, and it was one that got kicked up there. Whether they have like parental rights. So that was, I don't know how, like, upheld from the lower court. So, you know, same-sex lesbians are granted the same rights and benefits and responsibilities as everybody else.
Again, that's one of those things where I'm just like, I didn't know that was ever a question or an issue.
Yeah, right. So that was one of the big ones. Another one, big one that went up was a review of a challenge of California's concealed carry laws, which I believe was a challenge on the Constitution, whether the Second Amendment right of constitutional right to bear arms holds true for concealed permits as well. Obviously, you know where we stand on guns, which is like,
we feel everyone should have guns. Everyone.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Oh, like at least 4
Dogs,
guns.
cats. the quick-witted, mentally disabled, like everyone.
So basically Trump supporters.
Yes, basically all Trump supporters should have firearms. Get them as quickly as possible. Get them into them and their dogs' paws. I want to see armed dogs on the streets.
I would actually be okay with armed dogs, you know?
It would be really cute for a little while.
Yeah.
Before they started, killing indiscriminately.
Yeah, until they turn on us and basically rule their own world.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a matter of time anyway.
So basically there was I don't want to say gun nuts, but gun advocates were trying to make it so concealed permits or concealed carry were allowed in California. That got upheld, which is so it got denied. And then there was another case about separation of that basically settled on separation of church and state, about tax funding and blah blah blah, which also got upheld, which basically got smacked down. What's interesting here is that in all 3 of those cases, including the they all fell upon like ideological lines where,
yes,
obviously Thomas, Alito, and Roberts all went to the right, essentially. And especially, I think Alito actually went here and there on both of them. Not Alito, sorry, Thomas. I believe that Roberts actually may have gone on both sides on a bunch of these cases. But Thomas, as we know, is super right-wing. Alito's super right-wing. And what's interesting now is Gorsuch...
Yeah, where does Gorsuch land on all these? That's what I think everyone was like waiting to see.
Very right wing on all of them.
Yeah, of course. So he's just as bad as he was rumored to be, as in even more conservative than Scalia, basically.
Yeah, it seems that way. Scalia, for all his right wingness, was also a very weird, strict constitutionalist, which was weird. But I fear, and I think a lot of people fear, that with Gorsuch, it's not the same, where he's more like purely ideologically driven as a fundamental Christian, not super fundamental, but you know what I mean, right?
Taking the fun out of fundamentals, basically.
Yes, he's the Mike Pence of Pence of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, do you want Mike Pence on the Supreme Court? Because you got it. It's Gorsuch.
Yeah, which is obviously terrifying, because he's gonna be this way for a long time. He's still very young. He's got a lifetime.
He's young by Supreme Court standards.
Oh yeah, he'll be there for like at least 30 years.
Yeah.
And everybody knows Ruth Bader Ginsburg's old. Breyer's super old. Both those guys, could go in the next 3 years. It was already rumored that Kennedy was going to retire, put in his papers today, which he didn't.
Yeah,
which
thank
obviously
God.
I think we're all happy about that.
Yeah, thank God. Well, I was going to say, pending a few tickers, this could become, an all right-wing, hardline, Christian fundamentalist Supreme Court.
Yeah, easy. It could go like 7-2 in a heartbeat.
Literally in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So keep on living, guys. Please keep on living.
Come on, at least for 2-3 years. I mean, if the Democrats get the Senate, right?
They can at least stop the appointee of the next one.
Yeah, you basically play the same game as McConnell did with Merrick Garland. It's like, fuck that. We're not gonna hear it. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, we're not gonna appoint him.
I
mean, we were supposed to be a checks and balances system, not like a huge power grab, but whatever, it's happening.
But hey, now that door's been opened, it's like, well, fuck you guys.
Sure.
We're gonna do whatever we want.
The system's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great system they got there where it's like, well, once one checks and balances are sort of broken down, it's like, well, fuck it,
I think dogs should have guns.
Yeah, we made ourselves clear on that note.
You know where the surf stand on dogs with guns.
I'm gonna definitely after this, I'm gonna look up Google images of dogs with guns.
Dogs with guns, yeah, of course. I bet it'll be the cutest, horrifying thing you'll ever see.
It's gonna be awesome.
Well, speaking of people dying from bullet wounds from dog gunshots, we should talk about the Senate healthcare holdouts. Because that's
the CBO score came out today, which basically said it's going to kill everybody.
Well, they said 22 million, right? That's
22 million by like 22 or so. I think 20,000, 22.
Which will be the amount of Americans left uninsured.
Yeah, it's going to cut 17 billion off like Medicare, Medicaid. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's as bad as everybody knows it right now.
As everyone predicted. I mean, even Donald Trump called it mean. He called the congressional one mean. He didn't specifically call this one. That's true. Yeah, he hasn't spoken about this one yet.
The best way I've heard it was the congressional bill was vicious right off the bat. The Senate bill isn't as vicious right away, but is more vicious in the long term. Oh, so it's sneaky. It's a sneaky Pete. Comes up from behind. What's interesting is it's going to fuck up people. It's going to fuck up Trump's demographic voters almost the worst. But disproportionately hurts the poorest of the poor. I agree with you, but do you think they're actually going to correlate the two? Oh God, no. No, God, no. They'll blame the black man. Yeah, they'll blame so many other things. They'll blame the Mexicans, the blacks, the Jews. Everything but the actual thing causing them to lose their health care, which is definitely frustrating and sad at the same time. There's probably a German word for that: frustrating and sad at the same time. Definitely, please, definitely. You German fans out there, please send us the word for frustrating and sad at the same time. Yeah. So, in terms of the Senate, it's getting ever closer to being passed. Except there's a handful of holdouts right now. And as most people know, they need 52 senators to pass the bill. And 51, and they've got 4 holdouts right now. Yeah. I think more. Somebody else might have backed. But okay, sorry, to back up there, you say 4 holdouts. Yeah, they're not really specifically holdouts, right? They're no. It's political opportunism in 4 different colors, is what it is. Yeah, that's a good word to put it. Yeah, exactly. We've got the horrible and horrendous smiling face you want to punch Ted Cruz, who I'm sure is, gleefully taking any stab at the Trump administration he can after, I don't know, I want to say bending the knee and sucking the dick. I can't think of anything more eloquent. He's such a weasel. He's such a weasel looking man. And what he's done is just as weaselly, from denouncing Trump to having his dad called out as a serial killer and his wife called out as ugly, and he still bends the knee like a little good bitch. He is such a weasel, a weasel, but he's like Butters from fucking South Park, but not good natured. I don't know about this now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no
he's
shit.
opposed to this bill, but like that little weasel is just saying it to grandstand and be like, "Look at me, pay attention to me, I'm important."
Yep.
So he's definitely not gonna. Yeah.
No, he's not gonna hold out.
No. And John McCain's gone up and multiple times said, "Oh, there's some problems with this healthcare bill. Oh, I don't know." But he's going to vote for it too because he's a spineless fuck.
Yeah, he's a spineless fuck. I mean, the best thing going for John McCain is the fact that he might actually be going senile before our very eyes. Those last two congressional hearings when he's asking questions that make no sense. So that could be our best hope, is that John McCain goes senile enough to vote the wrong way on bills.
To one credit for what I don't get is with John McCain specifically, a guy who's like something like fucking 83, and up until the whole Sarah Palin incident was always considered sort of I want to say maverick because that's a shitty word that the media was using.
Well, and that's what they used too.
He was sort of a principled politician or a principled Republican asshole. Who stuck up for his own beliefs and stood up for things that whether they made sense or they didn't.
He had a moral compass of which he definitely stuck to. Whether or not you hate that compass, you couldn't, argue that he didn't have one.
And now he comes out. Yeah, and now he comes out and pretty much espouses those beliefs sometimes. He's like, "Oh, I don't think that's right. I don't think this is right. It seems wrong," but then doesn't vote against it. And at his age, at 83 or whatever, it's like, man, you're not fucking seeking re-election when you're 88. You barely have the marbles to read a fucking piece of paper right now. You live like it's 1975. Just vote with your conscience. Like, fuck,
it's so true.
What are you scared of?
True.
Like, fuck.
Yeah, I know. I don't get what he's being spineless about. Like, there's nothing, there's no reason for it. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. There was times when he was showing courage, especially when Trump was getting dangerously close to becoming the nominee of the Republican Party. And he was actually one of the few holdouts who was like, well, I'm not standing behind him, even if he is the nominee. Like, the guy is, insane. Why would I do that?
But he's like he still pussyfoots it behind, he's like, "Oh, I don't really agree with the president," or like, I'm not endorsing what the president says. Well, it's like, motherfucker, then vote against it. Like,
no shit.
What the fuck? Like, you have an actual vote.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like,
what good is your old man rhetoric and your your rants? Yeah, like, spare us, Grandpa.
Like,
old man yells at cloud.
Fuck.
So how's that sponsorship coming along? Yeah, so those holdouts aren't real holdouts. That bill is getting dangerously close to passing. So for American listeners, please start emailing, calling. You're the constituents. You got to email, you got to call, because it's real close.
Emails are essentially useless. All like ex-staffers say emails are completely useless. It's so easy to disregard an email.
You can just hit delete. But when you have 10,000 messages on your machine, or even better yet, town halls, when you're in person, when there's people outside, when there's angry people on the streets, they listen.
Well, you'd think so, but
yeah.
Do you see? Well, oh fuck! Did you see the day they announced that bill, the healthcare bill last week? I believe it was. There's a bunch of protesters out of fucking Senator fucking turtle face his office. There's all these protesters out there, and they're like, a few of them were in wheelchairs, and they were all arrested. So even the persons in wheelchair were arrested and then dragged out of their wheelchairs. And I was like, welcome to America, 2017, where they're forcibly taking you out. They're taking you out of the wheelchair before they pass this bill that will take that wheelchair away from you. Fuck.
Oh wow, frustrating and sad at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. Frustrating and sad at the same time. It's like watching Donald Trump try to get an erection. Frustrating, sad at the same time.
Yeah, and you know what? The worst part is segueing into the fact that that Georgian election is basically showing us that there's not really an alternative in sight. Like, the Democrats aren't growing. Well, I don't want to say they're not growing balls, but they aren't growing balls.
They're ballless. They have no balls. They're They
no
were
balls.
taken to the vet and they were fucking neutered years ago.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Actually,
Yeah.
well, what I was going to say is in the spirit of our topic of the week, which is about the war on women, I'm just going to say balls are fragile and very easily hurt. So where are your ovaries, son?
Yeah.
Come on, Democrats. Where are your ovaries? Fucking grow a pair, because this is ridiculous. I mean, yes, the Georgia election was really close. It was a Republican stronghold. They made great headway. The Republicans ended up spending more money than they ever have. I think more money than anyone ever has in a political race of that size, right?
I believe, they did. And I believe the Democrats also poured a shit ton of money into it as well.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
30 million or something.
Less encouraging. But yeah, and at the same time, they couldn't pull it off in this age of Trump, in this age where there's not only an overwhelming distaste of the Republican Party by non-Republicans, but worldwide.
Yeah.
They weren't able to capitalize on that.
Yeah. Essentially, there's two ways to look at it. One, it's a Republican stronghold district, and it still nearly went blue.
Right.
But on the other hand, like, fucking moral victories do nothing. The Democrats are just full of these fucking wasted moral victory. Oh, well, we came close, guys. Oh, we played a fair battle, guys. We didn't stoop as low as Trump, guys. Fuck that.
Wait till you see the Elizabeth Warren viral video coming out tomorrow. It'll really inspire you.
Yeah.
She's going to talk about it.
I feel like, say what you will about the Republicans and, they win. They win.
Yep.
They show up to the polls and they win. Now, obviously, people are going to say, oh, well, the districts are all gerrymandered and that's why they win and blah, blah, blah.
Which is a very, very fair point.
It is. And there's also obviously voter suppression, but that's not this. It still doesn't explain why the Republicans nationwide control like all levels of government.
Yeah,
it's pathetic. The Democrats basically play out to a youth demographic and just this liberal, I guess, demographic that just doesn't fucking show up. You know what it reminds me of? It's that fucking Facebook. I don't want to say the Facebook demographic that goes on and it's like, hashtag prayers for Paris, prayers for Syria. Like it's almost keyboard well wishes and thoughts that people don't get
social
out
justice
and
warrior,
do anything.
armchair,
It's like I'm gonna type this, I'm gonna feel better about myself, and then I'm gonna go out and fucking
that's it. And that's the extent of it. And my part is done. Yeah, I'm done now.
Yeah. Like it's the same people who whine and bitch about how politics are corrupt and tilted and we never get our way and like the Supreme Court's all going right wing or we're losing, Roe v. Wade and all this shit. It's like, well, go to the fucking polls. Go to the polls in municipal elections. Go to the polls in state elections. Always go to the polls. Don't fucking,
I totally agree.
We mentioned early on, or a couple weeks ago when France had their election, that their voter turnout was the lowest it's been in like 60 years, but is way higher than the American turnout ever is.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
overall.
the Canadian ever is.
Yeah, for that same matter. Yeah, no, it's embarrassing when you see those low turnouts. And on the candidate side and on the party side, this goes all the way back to the Hillary Clinton Donald Trump election. You've got two candidates, and in one sense, one party is pushing this, I don't want to say uneducated, but let's just say multi-billion-dollar tycoon who's a reality TV star who by all measures and stretches and statistics should not have a single chance of winning, and then does. It really speaks to your party. What exactly is going on here? I don't think the Democrats are pushing a political vision or ideology that is inspiring. That is at all inspiring, right?
Dude, forget inspiring. They are not pushing an ideology. They're just whining about, not whining, sorry, that's a bad term because I do sort of agree. They're just pushing identity politics across the board. But that's not like a policy to govern, right?
No.
Like I agree with a lot of, equal rights and all that stuff, but that should be a segment. That's not a fucking platform.
No, it's not.
And like you said, like nobody's inspired because you guys are just, there's nothing there. It's just, it's hollow.
It is. It is. I mean, after the Bernie Sanders movement, which was, in its own way inspiring, and it got all these people who might not have been inspired by politics for a long time to get up and rise. Once it had to die out because eventually Hillary Clinton won, there was nothing left. Right. Yeah. Like there was nothing inspiring about Hillary Clinton. It was just kind of this corporate political, body that was moving forward.
And it's like politicians.
Status quo, business as usual. Okay, well, let's give it to her. I'm with her, I guess. Quote.
Yeah.
Right.
Like honestly, Hillary Clinton could have been actually replaced with a cardboard cutout saying like, I am a politician. And it's like, okay, well, fuck, like, woo.
Yeah,
but like the message is, should be like, get out to the polls. Like Bernie Sanders, this youth push of like, Bernie bros, like where are you when like shit's being played locally? Like,
well, I think they were too young to have pragmatism.
Good point.
Well, that's cool. What's on the video game tube tonight, man? Is it on fleek? All right, let's move on to our Cretin of the week. And as I said before, this should be the Cretin of the century because he has been active in both as being, an iconic legend as well as being an iconic rapist.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Cretin of the century, I think Hitler's got that one locked up. Right?
Yeah. That's okay. That's hyperbolic, but yeah, he is an absolute piece of shit, and I'm sure by now you know what? Before we announce it, should we get all of our impersonations out of the way here? Should we?
I can't really impersonate him, so I'm just gonna open the floor to you, and while I suck on some Jello pops. That was terrible.
4 years later. No, I don't have a good impression. But either way, yes, we are talking about Bill, I Love Quaaludes, and Raping Women Cosby.
Yep. So, yeah.
Well, I actually have an anecdote to start with.
I hope this is a story of how you got molested by Bill Cosby.
Close. So I was riding the New York subway the other day, and this was a packed subway. I'm just, everyone's minding their own business. Everyone's minding their own business. And I've got, headphones in, which is usually, it's the secret weapon on any kind of bus or subway that means don't talk to me kind of thing, right? Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. And so does most of the people around me. And then the dude beside me just starts saying top of his lungs and, tapping my chest. Hey, what do you think about the Bill Cosby? What do you think about the Bill Cosby trial? Come on. I ignored the first tap and then came the third, right? I was like, oh, come on. I want to hear it. What do you think about the Bill Cosby trial? I don't know if he was asking me because I was the only white guy on the subway. So maybe that was
it. That was definitely it.
Okay, which also puts you on a bit of a spot because you're like,
definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think that dark-skinned man should burn. No, but I was like, what do you think? Because I'm gonna flip this. I'm gonna see what he says first. Yeah. And right away he was like, it's kind of crazy because he's so old. He's like, maybe 80 something. He's blind now. I don't know why we're really doing this. I was like, well, dude, do you think he raped all those women? I'm sure he raped a few of them. I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like, okay, well then if he raped a few of them, then he's guilty of rape and then he should be persecuted for rape, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. It was such a long time ago. I was kind of thinking, have you seen what they look like now? Like they're all pretty hard on the they're all pretty ugly now, so I don't really think it's really a crime. I mean, blah blah blah.
Man,
yeah.
That's fucked. So
I was just like, without getting into an argument with the guy or into a debate, I was like, well, I think honestly, if you're asking me if he raped one person, he's a rapist and he should be persecuted as a rapist. That's just the way I feel about it.
Yeah. Reasonable.
I mean, he never brought up the race card. He was never like, well, do you think that there's, not enough white rapists in celebrity spotlight? And that there might be an argument to that, right? That we sometimes vilify, Bill Cosby or Michael Jackson.
Obviously, I can see, a lot of people thinking that there's a race component involved.
Right.
That's just the world we live in, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was like, I didn't talk about like, say, Roman Polanski or, Woody Allen or like, white famous celebrity rapists. of which there's a lot, but they haven't really been taken down a peg, I guess, the way Cosby has. Maybe that's it.
But you know what? Fuck Cosby in the sense that he shouldn't even get to play that race card, because for 30, 40 years, he spent his life basically lecturing African Americans on how to be black, and like, oh, you listen to your rap music, and like he was just a condescending fucking asshole about how to live like the right way, how like the blacks aren't living the right way, and it's like, motherfucker, you are raping people on the regular. Who the fuck are you to give
preaching, giving sermons about the right way to be black while raping consistently?
And like, he got off on this like fakakta trial. And is now like apparently going to go on tour giving seminars about sexual assault. But it's like not what you think, in that, hey, like, don't do sexual assault. It's like, hey, how to avoid getting how to avoid getting accused of sexual assault. It's like, what the fuck, man? That's like when OJ came out and wrote that book years after. It's like, if I did it. It's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, man. It's an arsonist telling you how to play with matches, like giving matches seminars. Like, it's like fucked.
Man, it's fucked up. It's fucked up that he got away with it. Like, you know what, you said, your little encounter on the subway there, that's almost what one of those jurors said, in that they're like, well, it was a long time ago. I think he's already suffered enough. His reputation's taken a hit. It's like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Like, that's not how law works. Like,
that's not how justice works.
No,
okay?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I was kind of dumbfounded by that. It wasn't even taken aback by. Sorry, it wasn't even like he didn't commit the rapes. Well, he might have done some raping, but at the end of the day,
like it's just mind-boggling how like, what, and like even in the court thing, like he admits to giving quaaludes to people, and then like going taking advantage of them. If that's not like, in what universe is that not sexual assault and rape and stuff? Like I thought that's like textbook.
Yeah.
That's like saying shooting somebody and then saying like, he fell on my bullet and getting away with it.
Oh, that's been happening all around town. People falling on bullets left and right. We got a goddamn bullet phenomenon. Yeah, that makes it really sad. And on top of everything else, like, I don't think there was any way you were ever going to get a jury that wasn't in some way biased. Like, how they do the jury selection, they weed them out and they try to do their best. But I think it was impossible with Bill Cosby, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah. He's been around
everyone
too
either
much,
knew who he was or grew up with him, or like he's just been around too long. It's he's what, 70, 80 years old. This is an 80-year-old,
like 80 something, yeah.
Yeah, it's an 80-year-old defendant.
He's an 80-year-old rapist.
I think one of the Cosby trial jurors is on this kind of like I don't know, media circuit where he's like, first off, let's say this. He's incredibly white. He's white to the point of like wearing glasses, nasally white, like, yeah, justice wasn't served. So yeah, this insanely white juror is now on this like apology tour where he's like doing all these media press, interviews and stuff, and he's just like, in tears, going like, I did everything I could. I just it's the saddest moment of my life, and I couldn't sway them, and all this stuff, and I know. Like, you want your extra 10 minutes in the spot, like,
yeah,
no,
that's it. Come on. Like, I was on the Bill Cosby jury. Pay attention to me, love me.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really sad. It's sad that the reason it's not going further is because of being hung. Like I would have rather it saw its course, even if it went to innocent, which I don't think it ever would. Like, I don't think anyone could listen to the amount of evidence in this case, the amount of testimony, the amount of accusations, and come to the conclusion that, even at the very least, something was wrong. Like, something was, I don't know, fuck that. He raped them. He raped so many women.
Let's put our cards on the table. He's a fucking serial rapist.
Serial rapist, 60 plus that we know about. Those are the ones brave enough to come forward.
Yeah.
Like,
fuck that is a heinous monster right? Like fucking
absolutely,
heinous.
yeah. He's got to be one of the most prolific, famous rapists of all time. That's going to be your legacy now.
I hope so.
And
I will
so
make
too.
it my life goal to anytime somebody brings up Bill Cosby, I will say rapist. Yeah, I'm not letting that fucking buck slide. Fuck that.
Just hopefully you don't have a trigger that's too quick. So it's like, oh, this is my dad, Bill Donahue, rapist. Oh, this is Bill Buxley, rapist. Bill, I mean, I don't think either of us was really triggered to make him the cretin of the week until he started saying, I'm going to give seminars on being falsely accused for rape. Like, fuck you, son. The gall. Oh, the gall. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. You wouldn't leave well enough alone. You had to take it one step further, you know? Like, fuck you.
You like got away with this, like, this miscarriage of justice. Just go crawl in your hole and die like, an 80-year-old man should.
Yes. Absolutely.
But it's what we mentioned earlier. Bill Cosby has built his life about like sermonizing and telling people how to live their life. Like, this was just another example of him basically going to go out there and be like, how to get away with rape. That's what he should call
away with rape tour.
That's what he should fucking call the tour. Not like, that's what he should call
get away with rape.
Call a spade a spade.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill Cosby, you are a cretinous rapist motherfucker. Let's leave it there. All right, on to our topic of the week. This week is, I guess it's an incredibly transparent attempt at two lonely men trying to get laid in this workabilly world.
Love us!
Well, that's definitely going to be one of the accusations levied against us if we do like a whole special on the war on women. It's going to be like, oh yeah, listen to these two guys, a couple of bros trying to get raped. No, we're not.
Did you just try to get raped?
I still got Bill Cosby on the mind.
Well, this segment. Well, I didn't know that's where we were going with this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let me take a step back here, folks. This week's topic is on the war on women. Unfortunately, it's that term, the war on women, is one that's kind of losing some of its force thanks to the fact that a lot of Democrats are using that as a term, and we talked about snarveling, pedestal standing liberals like Bill Maher. He's also used that term quite a bit, and it kind of takes away the strength of the expression, the war on women. But this is basically going to be the politically driven agenda, mostly by white men, to either control or obstruct or, take away the rights of women in one way or another in U.S. politics. And
I mean, it's a good jumping off point from our previous segment of talking about Bill Cosby, the rapist, about basically him getting away with, raping women. It seems like time and time again we see in the judicial field women, from like, I know in Canada there was a Gio and Comeshi trial, obviously the Bill Cosby thing, the fucking president of the United States talking about grabbing by the pussy. The United States. Like the president of the United States is a self-proclaimed, not rapist, but sexual abuser.
Sexual molester, yeah.
And when 50% of the country or the planet is women, and
51, I believe, they're actually the slight majority.
So that's just in the public sphere, and obviously, bring that back to where we want to talk about in the political sphere.
I think I can safely say that, we, the serfs, we're feminists, and we're feminists in the sense that if you look at the textbook definition of what a feminist is, it's that both sexes should be equal. That's a really easy jumping off point, right?
Yeah.
I think the term feminism has obviously been changed. You can either say diluted or deranged.
It's been co-opted by any kind of faction that's pushing their own agenda over the last 40 years.
So right. So whether you have the hardcore, male rights, weird alt-right kind of stance where it's like there's like a genocide against men, and they say like, Nazi feminists are trying to destroy us and take away us, that they're trying to use feminism as a negative connotation. That's been done throughout, centuries. It's been done ever since, the big women's rights movements and ever since, all the way back since women's suffrage. But yeah, so as we said before, we're going to start from there. Start from the idea that, as feminists, which I think under that definition, which is that both sexes should be equal, most people probably fall under that.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
Let's look at some highlights, or maybe we should call them lowlights.
Lowlights, yeah.
So in 2011, the U.S. states attempted to pass over 1,000 bills that would have ended the result of limiting access to abortion. These include laws to redefine abortion clinics as ambulatory surgical units, requiring extensive renovations to comply with safety issues, personhood laws, ultrasound requirements, total bans for abortions after 20 weeks, etc. Of those attempts, 135 bills have already been enacted in 1 year alone.
Fuck.
So that was since 2011. So since 2011, again, to really get people to understand the gravity of that, there's been over 1,000 bills in one way or another trying to restrict access to abortion for women. Now, we're not going to open up the whole abortion debate. That could be a different episode, and that can be a different, topic of the week. But if you want to talk about... Why are you laughing?
just the can of worms that is talking about abortion.
Yeah, I know. Oh, the flame war we've been. No, like I said, we're not going to talk about the abortion debate. Whether you're for it, you're against it, you think it's amazing, you think it's horrible, or you're pro-abortion. Whatever the case, we're going to talk about this fact that you are limiting access to abortion. We're going to talk about the fact that these bills are limiting access to abortion, or at least trying to. And like I just said, 135 were enacted in 1 year alone. And when it comes to abortion, all I'm going to say is that most of these target Planned Parenthood. Yes. They target, Planned Parenthood, for those of you who don't know, it's the organization in America. It's a nonprofit organization. It's been around since, I think, 1920 or 1921. Yeah. And it helps women in a whole range of ways. It's about women's well-care. It's first aid. It's ongoing maintenance. It's STD screenings. It's birth control. It's cancer screenings, fibrosis, mammograms, pap smears. So much shit they do, and such a little tiny fraction of their budget is dedicated to abortions.
Yeah. And that's like the political. That's all fraction. Politics ever jump on. Is Planned Parenthood is evil because of abortions.
Exactly, and because of that, it's really, really unfortunate because they do so much good thing for women who don't have access to these other very, crucial and necessary, screenings. Like we said, pap smears, birth control, whatever it be. So to pigeonhole the whole organization as being this like baby murdering, devil worshipping thing is really disingenuous. It's not what they do on the whole, and it's not what they do on a large scale. So it's that's my first.
And they primarily are there for women of lesser means. I want to say like super, like people like under the poverty line, but people with less income, people with less means to go to private clinics and whatnot. You're dealing with the disenfranchised, the poor.
Yes.
Or generally, And sorry.
Well, okay. And I was going to say of these new bills, they're what they're really trying to do in terms of limiting access to abortions is, so I said that really quickly earlier, but rewording them as surgical units, making sure that people, they're trying to change the language of what they are. They're trying to make them comply to safety regulations and safety things. They're saying it's for the benefit of the women. We're doing this for the benefit of the women, but at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is they're trying to close down a lot of Planned Parenthood clinics by saying some doorways aren't large enough. Whatever they can, they're basically trying to use any kind of small litigation or any kind of rule they can to shut down Planned Parenthood places. This has been forcing, unfortunately, a lot of women to have to drive out of state if they want to even get screened for an abortion, stuff like that. So again, you're targeting an organization that isn't just nonstop abortion Toys R Us. It's not like,
Abortions are
abortion
us.
Disneyland. Yeah, abortions are us. It's not that, but that is one of the things they do. But again, you're targeting something that also does a lot of, let's just say, as an organization, it is very beneficial for women to have, and you're targeting the entire thing. You're blanketing the entire thing because of one aspect of it you don't like, whether or not you do or do not agree with the abortion debate. Now, onto the abortion debate. No, I'm joking. We're not opening that can of worms.
And we should, we should note, and which we did note earlier, is that these bills are generally being pushed through by old white men.
Old white men.
Even
when was the last time a group of old white women talked about whether or not you can masturbate? Because it ruins sperm, or it's a waste of the seed of life or something. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine?
Yeah.
A room of old ladies being like, well, yes, you can no longer expel the seed of life, so masturbation is illegal across the board. That's it. We've decided. Men would go insane.
Oh, definitely.
Not to mention, everything would get ruined. I'm sorry.
Human civilization would collapse.
It would come to a screeching halt.
Yeah. Even this, this new Senate bill, or the new Trump Care, whatever you want to call it, it had no women on the panel. It's gonna devastate women's health, from maternity care to abortions to child rearing, everything. Medicaid.
Yeah.
And there are no women. Women make up 51% of the country, and there was not one single woman on the entire panel. That is fucked up. That's just that's like back in the day. That's like going back to the 40s, where I was like, "Oh, you women stay in the kitchen. You don't know what you don't know what's right for you."
Well, not really the 40s. That's like late 60s still.
No, that's like fuck that. That's 2017.
Yeah, that's now. That's today.
That is right now.
Yeah.
That is essentially
not going back. It's happening right now. As we're recording this. Let's continue with the lowlights. Paul Ryan, as you may remember, he was a, honorated Cretin of the Week a few weeks ago. Paul Ryan introduced a bill to redefine rape as forcible rape for any bill that involved funding. Had it passed, it would have meant that federal funds, which currently can be used for abortions that are the result of rape and incest, could not be used for incest, date rape, or other non-forcible rapes, quote unquote.
What the fuck does that even mean? What's what?
So he was trying to redefine rape as forcible rape, and there's also another form of rape called non-forcible rape. So that includes date rape. So if you're date raped, you weren't raped, you were non-forcibly raped.
You're just so the Bill Cosby rape.
It's a Bill Cosby rape. Yeah, exactly. So he was no kidding. Yeah, so I mean, thankfully that didn't pass. I think there's been so many other bills where they've tried to do that too, though. Representative Bobby Franklin of Georgia introduced a bill stating raped women were not victims, but only accusers until a conviction was had. Just the scum of the earth. We shouldn't have to redefine rape. Rape is rape. It's pretty simple. In August 2012, the Republican-controlled House held up a vote to renew the Violence Against Women Act because it provided protection for transgendered persons, illegal aliens, and women on reservations. This act had been renewed bilaterally for the last 18 years without a hitch. Until then. The Republican Party, in an attempt to discredit and even destroy Obama, attacked Obamacare using women's health as the pawn. They declared that it was against religious freedom to be required to provide birth control to women via the insurance religious institutions or religious individuals provided for their companies. In discussing the issue of birth control, an all-male panel of religious experts were among the few people to testify in front of the House committee. Women were not permitted to address their views that such access was medically necessary.
That's fucked up. I mean, that's the equivalent of saying men aren't allowed to use condoms. If women are no condoms, you have to. Yeah, it's
absolutely.
It's to use your earlier a little analogy there. It's like if an all old women panel basically said that all men can't wear condoms, and if you knock a woman up, you have to take it to term and you have to pay for it your entire life.
Yeah. Let alone if one of those old ladies raped you. That's a different story. Yeah. I don't know who they're trying to protect with the whole forcible rape thing. Is it the rich white college kid who might have gotten too drunk and date raped his some chick in college? Is that what the whole forcible rape redefining it?
I think a lot of it's just like to keep women down sexually, like to basically put them in a spot where they're not supposed to or allowed to explore their sexuality. Just if you're having sex and you get raped, well, fuck, you got raped. It's your fault for having sex, you slut.
You were asking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Republican Party shot down the Paycheck Fairness Act in 2014. Some argued that women make choices that push them to make less than men, while some, like Senator of Tennessee Lamar Alexander, worried that the sinking wage gap would somehow hurt men. We're also not tackling the wage gap either, because these are all topics of the week on their own. So we're not tackling abortions. We're not talking about the pay gap. We're not talking about all these things, but we believe in them. We think they're real.
I believe. And then finally, wait, are you saying you believe abortion is real?
I believe in it. I was about to make some joke about the abortion fairy coming down.
That's what I was just going to go there.
Once a year, the abortion fairy comes down and removes an unwanted pregnancy. But we're not going to go there. We're not going to do that. We're journalists. We're comedians. This is a comedy podcast. I can't ever say that. We're comedians. This is a comedy podcast. It's all parody, satire. Yeah. And then finally, the one that probably rings in a lot of people's minds is the 2016. This is when Planned Parenthood kind of came into the ether, when Senator Ted Cruz was really threatening to shut down the government over the issue. And he wasn't the only one. I mean, I'd love to, poke fun or punch Ted Cruz in the face all day, but there was a lot of different people that, basically tried to shut down the government of the United States over Planned Parenthood.
Well, I mean, yeah, for him, I think it's just, once again, it's just about grandstanding and making a point to certain kind of people.
His demographic of, religious zealots.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to say this again, because I really want to stress and point this point home, especially in regards to Planned Parenthood. And I was saving this number until this point. So again, Planned Parenthood, very small amount of their budget is allocated towards abortion. How small? 3%.
Jesus.
That's it. 3% of all the money that Planned Parenthood spends is on abortions. The rest is all other forms of women's health. So you are threatening to shut down the government of the United States over that 3%.
That's fucked up.
That's fucked up.
Now it's just become a political hot button, right? It has nothing to do with anything. It's just about pushing a policy. Like Planned Parenthood is basically a synonym for abortion within a certain demographic of the United States. So to say you're against Planned Parenthood is to say you're against abortion. Boom, done.
Right. Exactly. And like we said, it's abortions are us, right?
I've actually got another news story. This one just coincidentally popped up on Friday, I believe. It's from Missouri. Missouri Senate Missouri were proposing legislation which would allow employers and landlords to discriminate against women who use birth control who have had abortions. The bill has the support of the state's governor and was approved by the Missouri House on Tuesday. So that would give a landlord or an employer the right to fire or evict a woman if she takes birth control or has had an abortion.
Jesus.
And you know what's funniest about all this stuff is that this is coming from the party of small government. It's always small government, except when it comes to women's uteruses, women's rights, or social,
exactly. Except when it comes to women's bodies.
Yeah, it's like drugs and women's bodies are the two small parts of small government that small government's. No. Actually, we want to be in there.
Wow. Yeah, that's outrageous. Let me just quickly rattle off some Planned Parenthood things, just so people know. 1 in 5 American women receive care from Planned Parenthood at some point in their life. Wow. 1 in 5. Yeah. 75% of the clients are below the poverty level.
Yeah, so there you go.
There you go, right? But 97% of women's services at Planned Parenthood is for preventative care. So that's mammogram screenings, that's pap smears,
Yeah.
That's like
Like, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's just a sea of misinformation. If people, I feel if people maybe knew that, they'd be less inclined to hate on them. But who knows? I mean, that basically comes down to this war on women, keep women in, cages and in the kitchen, and but at the same time, like, the same, to harken back to our earlier point of like, show up and fucking vote.
Yes.
Women should have more, I won't say power, but there should be more women elected to office in the United States than there are.
There's 25% women overall right now in all forms of American government. Canada only recently got slightly better, but that was also because that was a huge thing the Liberals were trying to push.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Yeah, that 75% of elected officials should not be men. No. I'm not saying that you have to elect a perfect multicolored rainbow
50-50. Yeah, that's just
yeah, but it should be more than 25. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like that's not representative, and it's not representative of half the population.
So women, if you're out there listening to us, go out, apply for office, vote for other women, but not crazy women. Because God knows I'm an equal, I'm an egalitarian. There's as many fucking batshit crazy women as there are crazy batshit men, and there's a lot of crazy batshit men. So
Well, on that note, why don't we end by some quotes of misogyny? We'll do some of the greatest misogynistic quotes of all time.
Oh, all time. All right.
Well, I don't know if all time. This is basically a list I've pulled off the internet, or maybe I did hours and hours of research, and this is just the ones I've selected personally as the best. People will never know. There's no way to find that out. I mean, is it fake news? Is it real? You'll never know. All right, starting off with Pat Robinson. I'm sure many of you remember him as the crazy Southern Baptist minister. Feminism encourages women to leave their husbands, kill their children, practice witchcraft, destroy capitalism, and become lesbians.
Pretty succinct, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about people who don't really understand the definition of feminism, and there you go. This one is by Aristotle. The female is a female by virtue of a certain lack of qualities. We should regard the female nature as afflicted with a natural defectiveness.
Whoa. Oh.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it's from 2,000 years ago, so.
Yeah, I know.
Or like
it was a different time, really. Although, come on, if I had made that a little more eloquent, it could be a Trump quote. Sorry, a little less eloquent.
Yeah,
if I made that a little less,
I was gonna say a little more eloquent.
Yeah, sorry. No, but if I made that a little less eloquent, took out some words, added bigly, removed syntax, and maybe added took away a chromosome or two, that could be a Trump quote.
Yes.
By Rush Limbaugh, the shittier Alex Jones. Feminism was established so as to allow unattractive women to access mainstream society.
If anybody should talk about being unattractive and
I know, I was like, Rush Limbaugh, really? Okay, son. Great. By Nietzsche. When a woman has scholarly inclinations, there is usually something wrong with her sexual organs.
I mean, I can understand that from Nietzsche.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, trying to learn, are you? I guess sexism is pretty deeply rooted in the greatest thinkers of all time.
Yeah, and as we've shown, it's not really going away anytime soon. So
no. Actually, on that same note, let's do one by Kurt Vonnegut. Oh. Educating a beautiful woman is like pouring honey into a fine Swiss watch. Everything stops.
And I love Kurt Vonnegut.
I know, so do I. That was written like a for Kurt Vonnegut quote too.
Yeah, it really is.
That was definitely his prose.
Yeah, definitely.
It's got that nihilism, that hatred of the world.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison. Direct thought is not an attribute of femininity. In this, women is now centuries behind men. Okay, and then finally, we should probably end with a quote by a woman, because there are still women who can be misogynistic as well. Feminism is doomed to failure because it is based on an attempt to repeal and restructure human nature. And that's by Phyllis Schlafly.
Fuck you, Phyllis. I'm pretty sure she's dead, but, fuck you.
Yeah. And yes, there is our episode on the war on women. Did we have anything else we want to address? We didn't get any.
Nothing I wanted to address, but I did want to say, because by the time this episode airs, it'll be a week from now. So I wanted to say, before we sign off and do our usual little shebang, I wanted to do like a Happy Canada Day for all our Canadian listeners. And Happy Independence Day for all our American listeners.
They're very close together.
Yay.
Just like the countries. We're bosom buddies.
We're like weird cousins. Sexual cousins.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Les cousins dangereux.
Just make sure it's consensual, because remember the things you've learned today.
unless Canada wants to drop. Oh no, sorry, it'd be America. Unless America wants to drop a little Quaalude in Canada's little drink for Canada Day, and take advantage of Canada. So watch out, Trudeau. Trump's coming for you. Fat ass and all.
Yeah. He's gonna grab you by your man pussy. Well, on that note, we are the Serfs. I'm Lance.
And I'm Dave. And vaya con el diablo.